All right, welcome back. We're just going to be doing a little bit of a video on factoring complex trinomials, especially because this is the one thing that some people seem to be struggling with, and I just want to make sure everybody knows how to do this. So when you're factoring complex trinomials, you know it's a complex trinomial by the value of a, and the value of a needs to be anything other than 1. So in this situation, our a value is the value right in front of the x squared. It's 12. So if our value is 12, it is a complex trinomial, and this is how we're going to factor it. I personally like to use the method called decomposition. If you would like to use some other method, that's okay, as long as it works. I think the X method works. You can use the box method. There's different methods that we learned, as long as it works. Decomposition for me just seems to be the easiest. Personally, it's the one that makes sense to me the most. And it's the one that I usually do answers with and I take up in class. Decomposition, there's a few of you that call it product and sum. You can call it that as well. So some of you might have learned it as product and sum method, right? So it's called product and sum because you're going to be trying to find two numbers that give you a product of B and a sum of A times C. So what does that mean, right? What is our B value here? Our B value is going to be 5, right? So our B value is 5. So you want to find two things that when you add them together, two numbers. I use M and N. M and N just represent any two numbers, right? Any two numbers. It's just what we assigned them. Any two numbers that when they add together, they will give us 5. And any two numbers, when they multiply together, they'll give us A times C. Our A value is 12. Our C value is the last value, 2. If you're confused about where I'm getting A, C, and B from, I'm just going to write B here, which is equal to 5. How I'm finding these, you need to go back to look at standard form of a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. So I'm using these values right here, a, b, and c. Okay? In case you're confused where that's coming from. So A in this situation is the 12, B in this situation, so I'm just going to draw a line. A, B, C. Okay, so my A times C is going to be 12 times negative 2, that's important, which is going to be negative 24. So now, basically, I need to know two numbers that add to give me 5, right, positive 5, and multiply to give me negative 24. So the best way to approach this is to just write all of the possible factors of negative 24. So I write them all out. If you can just eyeball this and see, then that's fine. So your possible factors always start with 1, 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, can't be divided by 5, and then you start repeating because then you do 6 and 4 and so on and so forth. So those are the factors, right? If you did negative 1, one of these has to be a negative. So if you did negative 1 plus 24, you would get 23. If you did negative 24 plus 1, you would get negative 23. So this isn't an option. If you did net 12 minus 2, you would get 10. If you did negative 12 plus 2, you would get negative 10. So this isn't an option either. This one might be an option. If you did 8 minus 3, you would get positive 5. So we're going to use this option right here, right? We're going to use those. That means that my m value is equal to 8 and my n value is equal to negative 3. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into my original equation, which was 12x squared plus 5x minus 2. And I'm going to do what we're going to decompose, which means we're going to break apart the middle term. Right, so we're going to turn this into 2, this middle term. And the first one is probably going to be negative 3x, and we're going to change that to positive 8x. Right, I'm going to leave the rest of my equation the same, negative 2 on the end, and 12x squared. Right, all I did was decompose my middle term. just so that it looks better. I'm going to write it out again just in white so that it looks nicer. 12x squared minus 3x plus 8x minus 2, right? Right? So then you have this. Now you can do something called factoring by grouping. So the next step is going to be factor by grouping, right? So I'm going to just go back and I'm going to put 2 brackets around my first 2 terms and brackets around my last 2 terms. I'm going to look at these 2 brackets and I'm going to see 12x squared, 3x. What can I pull out of here? I can pull out 3x, right? 12x divided by 3x is going to be 4x. 3x divided by 3x is just going to be 1. If I'm going to go to my second bracket over here, I'm going to notice that I have an 8x and I have a 2x. I can pull out, just a 2. I can pull out just a 2, right? 8 divided by 2 is going to be 4. The x doesn't get divided, so I'm going to leave that there. And 2 divided by 2 is just -1. Now I'm going to notice that this bracket is the same as this bracket, so I'm going to make that one of my brackets at the end. So I'm going to write down right here 4x minus 1. Right? Now I'm going to take this 3 over here and this positive 2 over here, and I'm going to put that into another bracket. So it's going to be 3x plus 2, and those are going to be my 2 brackets of my factored form. This is now a factored equation. Okay? Those are my 2 brackets. That's it. You are always going to be left with 2 brackets because even x minus 2 squared is the same thing as writing x minus 2, x minus 2. So always remember that you will be left with 2 brackets. Okay? We're going to do one more just to drive a point home. Try doing this one by yourself first, and then come back and watch this video and see that if you did it right or wrong. Okay? So again, product and sum, we're going to look for 2 numbers, m plus n, whose product is going to give us this b term, so -11. Right? We're going to find 2 numbers who give us a times c, which is going to be 6 times 4. They're both positive, so it's going to be positive 24. So again, we're going to go and find the factors of 24. Notice how up here, we were also finding the factors of 24, but 1, our b term was different, and 2, I was -24. So just be careful when you're finding the factors. So we've already found the factors of 24. I'm just going to take them from here and copy them because I'll write them out again. Right, so our factors of 24 are going to be 1, 24, 2, and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, right? 1 plus 24 won't give me a -11. Also, you know that we're looking for a negative number, so they probably both need to be negative. But even then, -1, -24 won't give me -11. How about -2 and -12? Nope, will give me -14. -3 and -8 we've already done. Or we did -3 and just 8. So what will -3 and -8 give me? -3 minus 8 will give me -11. But both of these need to be negative this time. That means that my m is -3 and my n is -8. Big difference from this one up here. My m was +8 and my n was -3. So just make sure you make that correlation. Okay, this is both of them are negative because a negative times a negative will give you a positive. Okay, so -3 minus 8. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back, look at our 6x squared minus 11x plus 4. We're going to decompose this center term, right? So we're going to decompose. That's why it's called decomposition. We're going to break it down. Okay, so we're going to have 6. We'll decompose it first. So let's change this 11 to the 2 things we want it to be. I'm going to put -3x plus 8, minus 8x It's the same thing as saying plus negative 8x. I just skipped that step and put the minus in right away. 8x, right? And then I'm just going to write in the other part of my equation. So the 6x squared minus 3x minus 8x plus 4. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to put my brackets where they need to go around the first two terms. I'm just going to put it here around this negative term as well, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out as much as I can from this first term, probably a 3x. So I'm going to pull out the 3x. I'm going to have 2x minus 1, right? Same thing here. I'm going to pull out the negative. I can pull out a negative 4. So I'm going to pull out negative 4. 8x divided by negative 4 is just going to be positive 2, not positive 2. And then the positive 4 divided by negative 4 is going to be negative 1, right? So again, I notice that these two brackets are the same. That's our first indication that we're on the right track. If that's wrong, then that chances are you did something wrong, and go back and look at your factors. Okay, so we have, I'm going to turn that into 2x minus 1, and then I'm going to go back, look at my 4, look at my 3, and I'm going to write that 3x minus 4 equals. And that is the factored version of my equation. All right, so if you are still having trouble with this, try watching the Khan's Academy videos that I had posted, but hopefully this helps make it make a little bit more sense. Okay? All right. Thank you for watching. I will see you tomorrow.